feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else. No one's stopping me now.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. If you're my previous subscribers, welcome back. So for today's video, we're going to be focusing on the housing market and the rent freezes and other questions related to the housing economy in general. So if you want to just jump to certain segments of this video, go to the description below. Everything will be timestamped in the description along with the comment section if you just want to be able to jump through and skip this video. If you are watching this on any sort of devices and you're able to tap the screen or with your controller if you're watching this on the television, and it will come out with a red bar. It's going to come up with little chapters. Each segment of this video is broken down. You can go to that certain segment or question that you want to have answered. I make bigger videos now just so I can put everything all in one video instead of making multiple videos answering the same question or answering the same topic, when I could just put it all in one topic in one video. You guys just go answer what specific question that you want answered for you. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to jump into this. We're going to be focusing this week on the economy and specifics, from inflation to food crisis and all that type of stuff. We're going to go more in depth with this, but this is specifically focusing on the housing market in general. So we're going to answer questions like that. So this video is being recorded on October 7, 2022 at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And just to show you a little bit of proof here, this is the current news cycle on Google. Okay, you can see it's 12:19, and this is the current news cycle on Google. So you know that that is legit, that this is being recorded on the date that I am saying that it is. Now, you can go to that news article, search in that title, and you will find out that this video is correlating with that specific date. Okay, so here are some quick disclaimers on your screen right now. Feel free to read them on your own time. And this video is just for entertainment purposes only and for education purposes only as well. Again, I am not a financial advisor. Take my word with a grain of salt. Okay. All right, so the first question that we're going to ask today is rent freezes in the United States. This was a question that I had for a while. That was supposed to be answered in another video, but I just never got around to doing it. But hopefully in this video, we're going to be able to get the answer that we are seeking. So if you're not familiar with rent freezes, I've been trying to look on the internet for the direct definitive definition. However, I was unfortunate to find any. But based on what I've seen in terms of other people and certain laws and stuff like that, it really depends on the law of a certain country or state. What I have found is that all rent freeze really means is just freezing people's rent so they can make it more affordable for them. So, aka 2020, when the pandemic hit, rent freezes were enacted in many parts of the country to make sure that people wouldn't have to pay their rent when they actually couldn't afford to pay their rent because of job closing or something similar of that factor. So we're going to use the Monopoly deck here. Life is like a board game, and we are going to find out. I'm not exactly sure what the goal here is, but I'm just interested if we're going to have more rent freezes in the future. That's what we're going to go with. Spirit Angel, tell me, are we going to have any more rent freezes in the future? Okay, so the card that comes up here is the Seven of Pentacles, and the reason why I chose this card because the Monopoly card is very important here because the housing market is being monopolized, right? It's being monopolized, and I'll go more in depth about that in the video. We have the Seven of Pentacles, which means waiting patiently at avenue. So I asked, will we have another rent freeze where you don't have to pay your rent every month, but it'll be prolonged to make it easier for you to be able to afford that? It appears here that it says patiently waiting avenue, which basically hints that in the coming future, we will have another rent freeze. It's not giving me a definitive time frame, but it could be as late as 2027 or as early as 7 days to 7 weeks to 7 months. But regardless of what it is, it does feel like, in a way, well, actually not 2025. It could be 2027. It could also be 2029 or 2030. I just said that we were going to have a depression at the end of this decade, and I'll go more about that in another video. But I do see that we're going to have another rent freeze. And also a reminder that with all everything going up, inflation and prices, but your wages are staying stagnant, you're not going to be able to afford the things that you were able to afford maybe just say 10 years ago. So that's why a rent freeze will be necessary for the future, because they make it so unlivable and habitable, which is the word that will be used. Provider of emotional support and maturity, King Cups. The King of Cups here is really telling me here, well, if you remember that right away tarot deck card, it has the guy with the cup with like standing on a foundation with rough water, but he's standing strong. He knows his foundation, right? We're talking about rent freezes. It feels like in order for the country to be able to move forward, this would be the best avenue to closing that wealth gap. Would be also through rent freezes by just permanently shutting down rent in the United States for however long, because the people who are paying top dollar are not really paying rent anyway. So why is it that you have to pay rent? We do have here in the middle the Magician. When the Magician card is the Ace of Wands. Oh, yeah, I think that's no, it's the Misha Arcana, but I can't remember the thing right now. I don't know why I can't remember the word for it, but it's the Magician card. It's helped me manifestation. It feels like there's going to be a position in power where they're going to have no choice and they're going to have to do it anyway. So I do feel like there's going to be something big that causes certain issues or certain areas of the United States to go through rent freezing. And for the final outcome card here, we do have grief and sorrow away, and we have Three of Swords reversed. So it tells me here that this is actually one of the ways that politicians are able to alleviate some of the pain and pressure that the economy is putting on people. So this will be one of the avenues in order to lessen the injured and hurt. Right? You can easily get, in New York, easily apartment for an 8x8 room is easily $2,000 or more. Right? If just say rent freeze were to be enacted, people will save $2,000 if they were to have an apartment at that price. So it's a pretty good deal, especially when you want to buy a car or even have savings. Okay, that question. Say if the housing market in the last few months of 2022 is it going to crash? Now, I did cover a video in particularly. If you have not watched it, I'll put this in the comment section below. I'll put the link here, and I'll also tag at the end of the video, and it will be recommended. This specific video, I talked about how when I was using this actual tarot deck, I believe this one for that specific question, I asked my spirit guides, and my spirit guide told me that the housing market was not intended to crash because it's not going to under natural circumstances. That's what they said. Under natural circumstances, the housing market is not going to crash, but it will crash under man-made conditions, right? So that's what they said. So if you want to go watch that, I highly recommend it. It covers a whole bunch of different topics. If you want to go back and compare it to what I'm talking about now, to what I talked about then, why not, right? So Spirit Angel told me, say if the housing market for the last few months of 2022, what's going to happen now? Because I remember telling you guys that I spoke to one of my clients back in 2020 in December, and I told her the economy is going to crash, but she's going to do very well in the housing market because she's a realtor. And I said she's going to be able to sell a lot of houses because she lives in Alabama and she's going to sell housing in the South. I said she's going to have a lot of buyers who are going to end up wanting to buy new houses. And I saw that back in 2020, and I said maybe that occurred around 2021. I don't know exactly what causes people to buy houses because I'm not exactly 100% a home buyer, so I don't exactly know. But I do know that there were people coming back. So it's possible that we could actually have people coming back into the, the housing market. So Spirit Saying will tell me the rest of the state of the housing market for the rest of this year. Okay, so we have, what's today? October, November, December, January. Okay, so we have 4 months, really. I pay January because I think she's going to spill over into January, into February, but we're going to group both February and January together. So the first card that came up here was supporter of generosity and security. This is the Queen of Pentacles here, and it is dark blue, which talks about communication. So people already have an idea that it's going to happen. They're just asking, we know it's not going, we know it's going to happen, but when is it going to happen? It's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. So people know already it's going to happen. So they are having the ability to be able to have that built up security, at least for some people. For other people, they don't really have the luxury of having that financial security where they're able to write this out if it was to happen. Right. We do have here generosity and security. I do feel like there are some aspects of certain areas in the United States, and this is also globally speaking. What happens in the United States is also global. So, what I do see that for certain areas in the United States and maybe globally as well, there are certain people or positions or cities or towns or whatever that provided certain generosity for buying homes, maybe a tax break or whatnot, that made it more likely for people to buy homes there. And what this is telling me here is that that is going to come to an end because they're not going to be able to follow through on all their promises. So we do have here on the left side here in the past, we have provider of prosperity and power. And that is really hinting to the fact that, back then you were able to buy houses for pretty affordable prices, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't really say it was affordable. I mean, something that used to be $17,000 just shot up to $500,000. That's not exactly affordable if you ask me. But what it is telling me here is that people who invested in the past and brought home, that I'm talking about the older folks who brought their own home back when they were younger in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, well, those investments are going to pay off. That's what they were thinking because, eventually those same people who paid $17,000 for a home are making $250,000 to $1 million just on their own home. And that is quite an impressive investment. But that is in the past. That is not what's going to happen for the next generation, which is the millennial generation, Gen X, Gen Z, and my generation, right? Underneath here, underneath this generosity and security, is development of news and enthusiasm, right? So what this hype of support in terms of people being able to buy home was just a hype fixated by the news media that allowed people to be able to feel comfortable with the idea of buying a home, when in reality, it was just all this ploy to get them to go out and spend their money and then find themselves in a big hole. Now, that kind of sounds very similar to 2008 with the recession. So I would not be surprised if the news media does that again. So definitely be wary of the news media when it comes to buying a home and making certain decisions. Don't fixate on what you hear in the news, because the news can make it more glorious than what it really is. And don't be sucked into it. Make sure you really think about it and trust your instincts and guts, right? What I'm also seeing as well is that the part of the reason why it's also increasing prices for the housing market is new development. So new development and they basically called in areas where they're classified as ghetto would be gentrification, where they're basically having hipsters, or they're regenerating the whole area where it used to be a bad area and they're making it revived. And that's what I'm seeing here. New development and certain things in the news will really determine the value of your own home depending on your whereabouts. So just say there's a serial killer in your area, your value of your home is going to drop. But just say you have a really peaceful area and everybody has a beautiful townhouse, you have the nice, beautiful waterfront, well, the value of your home is going to go up. And that's really depends on the certain area, the climate change, and everything is going to start dictating the value of your home at a rapid pace like we've never seen before. Now, you would think the inflation economy is going to do that. Yes, they have power over that. But what I am seeing that certain areas out of your control are going to start dictating the own value of your house. So definitely expect when buying a home to expect the area for the long-term goal and future and feel the energy of it. If you feel like it's not going to be that good, probably don't do it. Again, this is just for entertainment purposes only, but it does feel like certain areas out of your control will start dictating home prices. Just because it seems good now doesn't mean it's going to be good in 30 years. And in the reverse for the future, though, we do have the yellow reverse, which is the Queen of Wands. And we have supporter of ambition and business success. So in the future, I do see the end of a lot of people who have been misguided. I do see a lot of people who were buying into the news and buying up politics and stuff like that are going to be kind of misled in a way. And they're going to lose their business or even their own investment. And because of that, they've almost been lied to. It's basically a scam to get you to put money in the housing market to prevent it from collapsing temporarily. but that's not really a best investment strategy. So I do see that as being a major issue coming forward. So the question is it going to crash? Well, it doesn't necessarily give me a definitive answer, so we're going to ask right now. Is it going to crash is the housing market going to crash in the next few months? Okay, so the reason why I'm asking and did the specific reading on this specific question in terms of the whole topic in general of this video was because I was reading on the midterm update for October, and I kept seeing that there is some sort of economic trouble that are facing around the midterm that is a little bit shocking, but not unsurprising. So I figured I'd jump into this and kind of ask the question. However, we do get the moon here, which is on the 18th, right? We're quickly approaching the 18th of October. And what this is telling me here is that there is a challenge of the moon. The moon is hidden. So the question is, the reason why we can't be able to find out definitively if the housing market is going to crash at this year is because of the specific card. But what does come up is provider of emotional support and maturity, King of Cups. So what really happened at this midterm election will be dictated partly by the current environment in which we face when it comes to the housing market and people's money and investment. But we'll definitely take a look at that. So if, let's say, the Democrats win, that might just indicate that people are doing better than they were 4 years ago. If the Republicans are doing better, I mean, the people in the United States are doing worse than they were 4 years ago. And that's not talking about, certain other issues. It's talking about housing market, right? So that's how the best way to really gauge where the country is going and where it's currently at. So that's what I see for the specific question. Now, the next question that we're going to ask is, how is the housing market from 2023 to 2025, 2 years, are we going to crash? So how is it? We're going to take a look at a long-term 2 years, 2 years max. Let's take a look. So Spirit Angels, tell me, how's the housing market from 2023 to 2025? Are we going to experience a crash of any sort? Okay. The first card that we have here is Hold On Tight Avenue. It's reversed. And it's with the Four of Pentacles, and that is reversed. And what it's just telling me here, it is telling me that there might be some sort of laid back. There's going to be some sort of type of energy of being laid back, right? So that's why I said holding tight on Avenue. You don't really need to hold on tight. Maybe that might indicate maybe hold on to your house, maybe don't hold on to your money. But whatever this is, again, this is not financial advice. Here I am just trying to understand what the card specifically means, but I'm going to read the other card and it might indicate what it really truly means based on energy. So we do have here provider, authority, and charm. Is the King of Wands, that is reversed. All these are reversed except this one. Underneath the holding on tight Avenue is reversed. We also follow the Five of Wands, which means conflict guarding. Right, it's reversed. But what's upright here is we have weirdly defensive guidance. Nine of Wands. Interesting, the word guiding showed up. Right? So what it is telling me here is actually quite interesting. Okay, I know what the question is. So from the housing market from 2023 to 2025, within the 2 years, is it going to crash? It's not giving me a definitive answer. But what it is telling me, though, is when it says holding on to Avenue, it's really telling you to really retake a look at your current area and your current location. So if you are buying a house and you're on the waterfront, you have to kind of ask yourself, is this really the smartest place to live? Just kind of look gorgeous. Is it going to be gorgeous when a tsunami comes and takes your house away with you and your older children? So that is really what it is telling you here. It's telling you to really take a neat look into climate change. Because remember I talked about in the last question, I talked about how climate change and other certain factors out of your specific control, including human control, are going to start playing a major role in terms of really understanding and be able to dictate certain prices in certain locations and areas. So that's what it's really telling you here. It's telling you that, okay, so if you're going to buy a house somewhere, pay attention to the local natural area. Is it going to be safe? Are you on a hill? But if you're too high up, you might experience some sort of health problem like blindness or deafness, right? You really have to really counter and understand exactly what you're getting yourself into and understand and accept it for what it is. But eventually, once you buy a house, you cannot leave that house for a certain period of time unless you're able to find a viable buyer. But by that point, you might not get a buyer because the buyer might be smarter than what you were thinking. Not saying that they're smarter than you, just by happenstance, it might just be harder to find a buyer. On the left side here, we do have provider of authority and shine, which is the King of Wands here. And it's kind of telling me here that it's kind of neglect. So neglect in terms of politician. I do see the politician coming here, and it comes with laws of neglect. And when I say that, I'm talking about the fact that, okay, you know, the governors and senators and congressmen, all of them, including the president, you are basically a political ploy in order to gain votes. I don't necessarily see an actual genuine energy or motive to actually help the people just because of careness, because they feel love and compassion for you. I don't see that in that card. And what it's telling me here that there's going to be certain laws in a certain states or locations or countries where it makes it very difficult for certain people to be able to get by. And what it is telling me here that it does say that the economic crisis goes worse with the economy and with the climate, it might make this entire situation 10 times worse. And what it is telling you to also look at the certain states and areas and the laws that are currently affected and ask yourself, okay, so if this was to happen, what kind of position will I be in? Will I be able to ride it out? Will I be able to be safe? Right? You have to think about security now. That's just what it's really telling you here. It's really interesting how this entire video is all about you buying a home, which is interesting because I did not plan it like that, but that's just how it's coming through. That, you know, if you are buying a home or you're buying an apartment, really think about these certain concepts and certain laws in place. If you know you're going to be in a Republican area, you might not get a lot of leeway when it comes to certain housing markets and stuff like that. Yes, you might get it cheaper, but you might not get a politician who's willing to have rent freezes or someone who's going to be able to help you during a crisis, right? So you also have to get some pros and cons. You just really have to weigh it out, really know your politician, really know your stuff, because this is going to be very important going forward. Underneath, holding on tight avenue reverse, we have also the reverse conflict guardian. And the Five of Wands here is telling me here that in the past, right now, this is where we are right now. Right, we're in this aspect here. Conflict guardian is really hinting toward climate, right? Climate change. But it is reversed because it's telling me here that we are starting to get into the whole bundle of it, but we're not right in it yet, right? But coming into the future, though, when it comes to economy within 2023 to 2025, the climate change will be a defining factor for where you live, right? And whether or not you even have any sort of value on your home at all. And this is where it says really defensive guidance, right? It says be very wary where you take your home or where you buy or sell your house. Be very careful where you're doing it because you might dictate not only your own life, you might dictate other people's lives, but you also may dictate where your money and investment is going. So it is telling you here as well, just be careful and just really, really trust your gut, trust your intuition, because climate change is going to be big when it comes to the housing market. And it's going to crash. I don't necessarily get a definitive answer. I don't feel a definitive answer. I just know climate change is going to be a very defining factor for a lot of people going forward. Okay, will there be a decline in home prices? Let's take a look. Spirit Handler, tell me, will there be a decline in home prices in the United States? Okay. No. In the past, this is talking about the 70s, the 60s, the 80s, restful solitude way. So a lot of those prices back in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, those home prices were going to be almost like too good to be true. It's really what they were. And that is what it's saying here. That it's saying it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and chances of us ever experiencing something like that again is very slim to zero. And that is in the past. That's why it's in the past section here. With the next card that we have here, the Two of Wands reversed, is the forward movement guarding, right? And that is reversed. There's a lot of miscommunication when it comes to the housing market, and people are able to stand up for what is right for them, and are not willing to go against the status quo out of fear of certain things, or whatever that fear is stemming from. There's certain fear, and a lot of those fear is not allowing them to be able to make some sort of movement to get it going, to start getting people in positions of power and positions of like unions or whatever, who really get prices to decrease. I don't see a decrease in home prices. I don't even see people advocating for it. It's just people like having the attitude of it is what it is. That's what I'm seeing here. And in the future, though, will there be will there be a decline in home prices? No, we do have climate change making it 10 times worse. We saw what happened with Hurricane Ian, which we'll go in more in depth at the end of this month. We'll talk about Hurricane Ian and the effect of that in the Senate race with Marco Rubio versus Val Deming and Charlie Crest versus Ron DeSantis. We do have the devil. No. It's going to actually entrap a lot of people. And it's going to make it very hard for them to afford a home. That's why I talk about rent freezes, and that's why it's very important. Okay, so next question that we have here is, we have one more question after this, and then we're done with the video. So, corporations buying up any affordable housing that are for sale, locking out any actual home buyers, will this continue? So if you guys don't know, a lot of businesses like to buy up and shore up houses that are going out of stock, or people have been like kicked out because they've been unable to pay rent or something like that. And those companies will actually go in and buy the houses. And then those houses will not be for sale for anybody else, and they'll actually will not be used. They're just buying it just for real estate, and then they will sell it at an even higher rate, driving up the housing market. That's why everything's going up in price, because corporations will actually invest in your own housing market and taking away what is rightfully yours. And this also goes into foreign investments of foreign countries, like foreign leaders, like Queen Elizabeth. She was buying up houses on the United States soil, and she was actually buying up anything that was free, and she was racking up all her money. That's how she got as wealthy as she did, because she was able to place them in other areas besides imperialism that existed during her reign. So let's take a look. So Spirit Angel, tell me, corporations buying up affordable houses that are for sale, locking up actual people who actually want to buy homes. Will this continue going in the future? Will corporations buying up homes that are locking actual families from actually having a home, will this continue in the future? They're doing this for real estate purposes. No. What we have here is we have supporter of truth and protection. No. So the first thing is, this is in the past. So this is something that's been ongoing. This is something that's not an unheard practice, which has been as late as the 1800s, 1700s. This has been a practice that's been put in place. This is nothing new. Right? Supporter of truth and protection. That's because something is what it was back then doesn't mean it's correct. Right? Supporter of truth and protection. No. We do have here in the middle card here, it is telling me a quick communication guidance, 801. It is telling me the lack of proper knowledge from a lot of people when it comes to the housing market in general. It's very limited. Americans are most likely and have a high chance of being very uneducated. And this would be one of the aspects that are very uneducated. When you're uneducated, you're very easily taken advantage of just because you don't know better. Right? And this is one of those ways that it is telling me here in terms of quick communication guidance, what's the 801, that is telling me that you guys don't know any better in terms of this, and therefore it's allowing this to continue going forward. So yes, I do see it continuing. In terms of the future, though, we do have messenger of impulse and opportunity, and this is the Knight of Swords. And if you were to see here, a lot of you guys will say, "Oh, this is a positive card." No, it is not. It is in this aspect for this specific question is not a positive card because it says messenger of impulse and opportunity, which is exactly what an investment is. When you see an open slot, you take the opportunity as fast as you can before you lose it to somebody else. Right? That is an investment. That is how the stock market works and everything like that. So the reason why I'm also seeing this card, the first thing that came up and instead of messenger, it says missed opportunity of impulse and a missed impulse and opportunity, which basically means that you didn't take your chance when you had it, really, is what it's telling you. And that's what I see here. That's what I see for the future. So in terms of corporations buying any sort of affordable housing that are for sale, it will continue going forward. However, it is telling me that there might be a time slot in terms of our timeline where you might be able to get politicians who will stop this. The question is, will you elect them? So that is entirely up to you. And the last question that we have here is foreign home buyers buying. Okay, excuse me. Foreign home buyers are snatching any available land or apartments or home complex for people to actually live. Okay. Oh my God. This is like. I'm going to speak clearly. I apologize. Foreign home buyers are snatching up any available land, apartment, or homes for people actually living on American soil. What is the future of foreign home buying? So this is very important. You see a lot of this. I just spoke about it recently with Queen Elizabeth. This is very common. It's not an uncommon thing. It's very common in the United States. Like what happened when the condo collapsed, I think that last year or something. China came in and brought out some of those apartment complexes and made it easier. Made it easier for them. They're just buying it for real estate purposes so they can gain money. But that's what's also being important here, that this is considered in a lot of foreign countries, allowing foreign buyers to buy up certain things and aspects of the country. What's considered an investment, but is very bad for actual people in the home area. So just for example, you live in the state of Florida, right? You live in a condo. Some other country comes in and buys it, drives up the price for that specific housing or rent. Now everything around you goes up in price because they now need to match it. Because how is it fair that someone's paying $30,000 and you're paying $2,000? They're gonna match it by making yours $2,500 and that person $3,000, right? That's the thing, is that is a constant battle. It's that they're always trying to up each other, but also gaining money. That's the thing, is that it's all about money, 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 right? This is why it's very important we answer the question, right? And it's also, it can be very dangerous when it comes to war. Okay, so Spirit Angels tell me about foreign home buyers. Will we have any more foreign home buyers, or will there be a law put in place to prevent foreign home buying in the United States? This also includes real estate and apartments and condo complexes. That yes or no? Okay, we have a lot of cards here. It's very hard to tell. It really is hard to tell. I'll tell you why. Because we had the first card here in the past, we had the Lovers card, right? The Lovers card is back then during the medieval time period. They used to have, in order for a certain country to be able to have a certain alliance, a king will send his son to, say, Scotland, right? From England and Scotland, and they will marry, and the whole two countries would become allies or even become in union with one another, which is how the UK probably started. But the Lovers card, that's how it used to be in the past. Now it's just money currency transaction. There's no need to marry someone else's son or daughter and hope that, it's a binding contract. We do have here in the next card is leave it all behind, please, which is the Eight of Cups. And what it is telling me here is that it's telling me that people are leaving a lot of their places behind and making it easy for these foreign companies or foreign places to just buy them up, right? It's an investment, it's real estate now. We do have in another card that follows in the future, it's the Devil card. Now, the question that makes it really hard is, okay, the Devil card, considering the fact that, a lot of these people are going to go into jail, or is this just meaning no, right? That's the question I'm really trying to understand here, grasp, is, okay, there's going to be some sort of restriction or some sort of law put in place that's going to prevent this type of foreign home buying. Because the next card that we have here is Judgment, which is the 20 card. right? And it's for fun. So just telling it there isn't a lot of motive to actually stop this. You can see that there's not any in the news cycle. You barely hear people talk about it. Maybe you just hear me talk about it, no one else, right? The next thing is we have soulmate and connection play, two of cups. I do feel like a lot of the reason why a lot of places buy this up, this is speaking to a very small majority here, where they actually buy this place up and they do some shady stuff within those places because it's just ideal for them to do it in. Also, this is also talking about abandoned places like abandoned factories or stuff like that. I do see drug cartels, I do see sex trafficking and stuff like that, or even money laundering. Definitely do see a lot of corruption in this regard, and that this is the best cover up. So, like for example, if you wanted to sell something and sell it to me, but you wanted me to do something, but you have to pay me, well, how would you do it without getting caught by the government, right? If you were to sell me, just say, this tarot card deck, which only its value is probably about $40. If you were to decide to sell this to me for $250,000, well, that's going to get on the radar of the IRA, right? That's going to be a little bit suspicious for a product that you can buy online for $40. Why are you paying me $500,000, right? Well, the best way to go around that is you want to use mean where the value is not fixed. So you want to go with the art galleries in a way. So you want to go make an artwork, right, and sell that artwork to that person, and they could be able to pay you a certain amount of money that they think might request. So $500,000 for a painting, and that would not go on the IRA radar because you cannot put a price on art. And therefore, that makes it the perfect environment for money laundering, which is why it's very popular among rich people. There's also come in play when it comes to real estate, buying up real estate and selling it or even bribing people with real estate in the hope that they will do certain favors. This is what I'm seeing here as well. The next card that we have here is Justice, right? The 11 card. And so eventually we will come to that point in time in the late future where this will become a major issue and the law will have to step in and take its place. And we have damn that suck place, 5 of Cups. So for this, I do feel like the attitude is that maybe they come to the investigation that, okay, we will need to do something, but then they realize, well, we can't really do anything. Our hands are tied because certain politicians are tied to this, or even their hands are wrapped as well. So regardless, there's going to be some sort of investigation, but it actually goes nowhere. And that's really what I see for the specific question. So guys, I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and the bell icon. And please interact with this video. It will really help the channel going forward. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you all, and I love you guys, and have a beautiful night. Love you.